Good morning. I'd like to call to order the Public Improvement Commission hearing of June 6, 2019. Our first agenda item are the hearing minutes. At the request of the Public Improvement Commission staff, the acceptance of the minutes of the PIC hearing held on May 23, 2019. Any questions or comments on the hearing minutes? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion on the hearing minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Moving on to the public hearing continued. Our first item is on a petition by Cambridge Network Solutions for a grant of location with lead company status and 2 participants to install new telecommunication conduit with City Shadow within Summer Street, Boston proper. From address number 1, generally at Holly Street to Devonshire Street. This was new business on May 9th, 2019, had its first public hearing on May 23rd, 2019. And this is as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Grant of Location Plan, 1 Summer Street, Boston, 4 sheets dated May 13th, 2019. Morning.
Good morning. Shelley Cullen, representing Cambridge Network Solutions.
And Jeff Harrington, working for Cambridge Network Solutions directly.
So when we were last here, you talked about the manholes and to see if there was anything we could do to reduce them. And we were able to take out 1 manhole right at the building because not Zayo, but Level 3 in Cambridge Network. No, who is it? First Light, I'm sorry. First Light and Cambridge Network Solutions have existing manholes there, so we're going to connect into those and then do a lateral into the building.
And we did look at the other manhole at the other end of the block. There are granite sidewalks that are there now that are in good condition, and I believe they might actually be, I'm not 100% sure because I couldn't get into the building, but I believe they may actually be like hollow sidewalks. So what we look to do is we'll make sure that it doesn't appear to be in the crosswalk, and if we have to put something, we'll make sure it does not go in there. But the good news is we're able to remove 1, which I think is, you know, we're both happy with.
We removed the one that's closer to downtown crossing.
Yes,
The one
which I think
on the
is
street still right.
most
Correct.
important too.
And we also did look at the bus route there, and there is a bus right there on the corner of Otis, but the manhole that we're proposing is further into the road, so it's like 100 feet off the curb, so it shouldn't interfere with anyone getting on the bus.
And then I think the only last thing, I apologize, was we were asked to talk to the local business association, which Shelley has done, and then depending on where we, when and if we move forward, we will obviously let them aware of what we're doing.
Quick question, sir, ma'am. When you're done with your work on the surface of Summer Street, what is the width of the tear that I am going to see, irrespective of how well you compact? What is the width of the scar?
So because we're doing the 3 participants and then the city shadows 2, I think we're gonna have to have a minimum of an 18-inch wide cut with the reality of probably a 12-inch wide tray. I mean, the box is gonna be 18 inches. The overall, is my understanding, is the city is paving that after we're done, so.
Yes.
When, 200 years later or?
No, there,
No, I'm
oh, sorry.
No, I think
Method of
that this was
evaluation.
actually slated as something we'd like to have done because I don't.
So it is in our program.
Yes.
Yes, we've been in
Mark
touch.
told- Yeah, Mark Cardarelli said he was doing it in the
They are
fall.
much trigger for doing this right now.
Because you said it is 12 inches minimum. Sometimes these cars are fairly wide. Summer Street is one of our more important streets from a pedestrian experience, including, so we want to minimize the longevity of your fine work in terms of the scar looking. So Amy, as long as we are
Yeah.
coming to tag
We're
this,
coming and then Winthrop Square will come with Otis.
but you will still compact it appropriately so that I don't have base failures.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Other questions or comments? From your top? Members of the public? All right. Shelby, Jeff, thanks for your adjustments. We appreciate it. I'll entertain a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion to approve the petition by Cambridge Network Solutions for a grant of location with lead company status and 2 participants to install new telecommunications conduit with City Shadow within the Summer Street, as read into the record by the chair and as shown in a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, grant of location, 1 Summer Street, Boston, 5 sheets dated May 13th, 2019.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you so much. Moving on to the public hearing, our first item is on a petition by Cambridge Network Solutions for a grant of location with lead company status and 2 participants to install new telecommunication conduit with City Shadow within the following public ways in Boston proper. First item is Clarendon Street between St. James Avenue and Stewart Street, generally at address number 200, and St. James Avenue east of Clarendon Street. This was new business on May 23rd, 2019, and is as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Grant of Location Plan, 200 Clarendon Street, Boston, 2 sheets dated March 21st, 2019.
And here we are again. Again, Shelley Cullen, if you need it for the record.
Jeff Harrington from, no, go ahead.
And Tim Cortell of Comcast.
So from my notes from the last meeting, there was a few different asks. One of them, I'll address one at a time if it's all right. One was to try to limit, again, the location and location number of manholes. We went back and had a conference bridge with all the participants, and we were able to limit so that everybody would, A, share in the manholes that are proposed, which essentially limits 3 manholes, because the way it was, we were gonna have 3 for CNS and CenturyLink / Level 3, and then 3 for Comcast. We've all decided to share in 3, so that takes 3 structures off. The second issue was making people aware that if a bike lane goes in, it is the responsibility of the participants to adjust those. I think one is, A, by removing 3 structures, we're able to move them out of where the bike lane would potentially be. Again, on that conference bridge, we made it aware, exactly as you stated, sir, that that is the case, so everybody's aware of it. And then 3, Shelley is going to follow up to make sure in the participants' agreement that that is also notated. So we feel like we've tried to address that as best we can. And then finally, the last piece was making sure that these structures did not fall in a pedestrian crosswalk, if you will, and we spoke with the folks from the Disabilities Commission, and by, again, having the manholes combined and lessened, we believe the placement, we conducted another site visit out there with the general contractor and all the participants, 2 of which showed, and we were able to, where we think, adjust them, that they're not going to fall in line.
So the one in Clarendon and St. James, we think is likely outside of the crosswalk.
We believe it's outside of not only the crosswalk, and it does not affect the bus stop. The bus stop is actually on, coming down St. James.
Bus stop is over here.
Got it.
Right, so we'll be able to maintain that bus stop.
Location from the Boston Public Library, the garden.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Trinity is sort of what is would be just off the map at the Stewart and Clarendon intersection?
Just trying to understand the significance of your on Clarendon Street, since you're going from, let me get my bearing, from the west side of the street to the east side. Okay, so your plane starts on the west side of, right,
Here,
okay.
yeah.
So you're on the west side of it, and then you're going to the east side of Clarendon,
Yeah, this is kind of
right? Okay.
more central,
Yes,
because the
and then you're
curb
going to-
line is here and
So
here.
basically, you're going to see this beautiful, lovely little scar, not to 12 inches wide. That won't be the case. By the time you come up, your scar will be at least about 2.5, 30 inches minimum.
I mean, again, it shouldn't be more than 18, I say it shouldn't because the reality is with 4, but let's say 24 inches
Right. So
wide.
that's a good, nice little scar on both sides of that street. I just want to understand who are the abutters of that block of Clarendon between St. James and Stewart that get to see this beautiful thing for the next foreseeable future until we come around to pave it.
So the only thing I can speak to as far as the owners of 200 Clarendon, the property management company, we had to go to them for a building agreement to allow us to bring this conduit into their facility. We made them aware of these drawings of what we're going to be doing. Obviously, they represent not the entire ownership or residents within that area, but they represent probably one of the largest ones, and they are well aware of what we're doing because we are bringing this feed into their facility. We are not affecting sort of the church, if you will, side or that side of it. The only other one would be the 200 Clarendon Street folks.
Appreciate everything else you are doing in trying to consolidate assets and minimizing collateral damages, but there seems to be still much cutting in our streets. Okay, that's it.
What's your proposed schedule for this work?
Once we assume that we probably wouldn't be into it until after the 4th of July holiday. I think there's just too much going on.
Right now, 500 Boylston on the backside on St. James and Clarendon. They're doing a full, sidewalk construction. So they have predominant rights there, so we're gonna have to take a look at what your construction plan versus what they are. They're getting ready to gear up on that side, because they've completed the Boylston Street side, now they're jumping over to Clarendon and St. James.
So the good news is, I agree, and what we'll do is we're in contact with Oxford and the folks that are doing that, because we just built a lateral on a lateral to that facility, so we are working with them. I also understand there is, I believe, a movie shoot either this weekend as well, so
It's not this
we will work with it.
It was last weekend,
Okay.
and obviously that was pretty invasive, but it worked.
But we'll make sure that,
Hollywood.
yeah, we can certainly work with those folks, and the good news is we're already working with them, so it should make at least a general email and meetings.
I appreciate that.
That works.
Other members of the audience on this item? Amy or Todd? Members of the public? All right, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion to approve the petition by Cambridge Network Solutions for a ground location with lead company status and 2 participants to install new telecommunications conduit with city shadow within the following public ways in Boston proper as read in the record by the chair and as shown on the set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Grant Location Plan, 200 Clarendon, Boston, 3 sheets dated March 21st, 2019.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you.
very much.
Our next item is on a petition by the Council on International Education Exchange for the making of specific repairs within the following public ways in South Boston, consisting of curb, sidewalk, roadway, and pedestrian ramp reconstruction, as well as new and relocated storm drain infrastructure, driveway curb cuts, and a tabled roadway. The locations are A Street on its southeasterly side at address number 69, generally southwest of Athens Street, and Athens Street between A Street and the South Boston Hall Road. This was new business on May 23rd, and this is as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Specific Repair Plan, Athens Street, 69 A Street, South Boston, 1 sheet, dated January 11th, 2019.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, Attorney Nick Zazula, McDermott, Quilty, and Miller. With me to my left is Mariella Abreu from DBI, Owner's Rep for CIEE, the proponent. Far left is Rick Latini from Howard Stein Hudson. We also have Nate Turner from Margulies Peruzzi Architects here with us as well. We were here 2 weeks ago. A little bit of background again, just to orient everybody. CIEE is the Council on International Educational Exchange, domestic nonprofit organization, the country's oldest non-governmental organization in the field of international education and study abroad programming since the late 1940s, and they are proposing to consolidate and move offices to this location in South Boston, specifically in the lower end of South Boston. The property is 17,749 square feet, and the proposed project overall includes the rehabilitation of an existing brick and beam manufacturing building. It was formerly utilized by the Standard Rivet Company, and the proposal is to transform that and expand it into an office development for CIEE. It's a Article 80 small project review project that's been fully approved by the BPDA, the zoning board. We are currently at the, I'd call it the building permit phase at this date and time. With that, I can give it over to Rick, and he can go into more detail for why we're here today.
Sure, we're here today to ask for specific repairs on Athens Street to be able to table Athens Street. It's a 20-foot wide public way that generally has 2 3.5-foot sidewalks today with a 13-foot roadway. So we want to table that. We would do that by, when you enter from A Street, we'd have something similar to a standard driveway detail, city driveway detail, where you'd have a ramp up and then you'd have a level path of pedestrian travel across A Street when you come from south to north. This sidewalk on the north side was built somewhat recently by Port 45, so we are planning on maintaining it, and we build the pavement up so that you'd have a flush curb condition. On our side, we're building a 4-foot wide cement concrete sidewalk, which would also have a flush curb condition. As you go down, we have 2 24-foot wide driveways, but it's all flush. The only place where it's not flush, as I mentioned in new business, is we have a couple curb inlets, drain catch basins on the low point, so there'll be a reveal there so you can install the curb inlet stone. I believe that's all. I don't believe there's any questions on this specific repair last time, but I should look at it.
Street lighting.
Oh, I was going to save that for the next item, but...
No, the next item is the awning.
No, the next item is their lights, which are
Oh,
hanging
my
off the building.
bad.
Oh, okay, I can answer that.
Don't, because I'll ask the question again. Rick, there was something I forgot to ask. So the drainage right now I have a normal sidewalk, road condition, so how is the drainage going to be impacted, not on your side, folks, but on the opposite side? Because if for some reason, if the drainage patterns should change and the water leaks into the buildings, how are we going to be protected? We being the city, having authorized the road to be jacked up.
Well, this is actually why we ended up, originally we didn't have the catch basin with curb and Lindstone, we had the catch basin like in the middle of the driveway, but through Boston Water Sewer, they made us lower that so you could get, like, we're not changing the locations, and actually with the curb and Lindstone and the drainage grate, there won't be any flow back up into the building that's on the gutter
Let's
line.
assume that your contractor may not have done everything that he or she was supposed to do. And should there be some drainage issues that are going to compromise the buildings on the north side, how are we supposed to handle that? Will I chase you or the contractor? Who?
During construction or after construction? I mean, during construction, I would.
Post-construction, today there are no leaks because.
Well, with the next item up for bid, you'll have a contact for the license agreement for the projection. So I believe CIE basically will be, you'll have a contact information for them going forward when this thing's built.
I guess to this point, these are roads that are being built to city standards, but they are curbless. So before, if you're not going to enter a maintenance agreement to maintain these roads in perpetuity, then we will need them accepted with the notion that drainage is fully functioning per the Boston Water and Sewer Commission prior to us saying you don't have any maintenance obligations.
All right, so I'll have to fill out your roadway acceptance form later on. Okay.
Other questions or comments on this specific repair plan? Amir Todd? All right, members of the public? All right, I'll entertain a motion on the specific repair plan.
I make a motion to approve the petition by the Council of International Educational Exchange for the making of specific repairs within the following public ways in South Boston, consisting of curb, sidewalk, roadway, and pedestrian ramp reconstruction, as well as new and relocated storm drain infrastructure, driveway, curb cuts, and tabled roadway, as read into the record by the chair and is shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Specific Repair Plan, Athens Street, 69 A Street, South Boston, one sheet dated January 11, 2019.
All in favor? Aye. So moved. Moving on to our next item, on a petition by the Council on International Education Exchange for the granting of a projection license for the installation of wall-mounted lights over portions of A Street or Athens Street, a public way in South Boston, located on its southwesterly side, generally between A Street and the South Boston Hall Road. This was new business on May 23rd, 2019, and this is as shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Projection License Plan, Athens Street, 69 A Street, South Boston, one sheet dated April 9th, 2019.
Morning, Rick Martini, Howardson Housing again. These are for 5 building-mounted lights. They're only about 18 inches by 12 inches, but since the existing building is essentially at the property line, we have a small extension over the public way. There's 10.5 feet clear between the bottom of these lights and the finished grade level. And the license we're asked for is only 6.3 square feet for all 5 lights in total. As far as street lighting, I did call Paul Kosha, and he said that the street lighting does not want to maintain them. So I don't know. So we're gonna install them, and it'll actually be better street lighting than was there before.
Okay.
The street light on the north side that was taken down by 45, but he did not tell me that the illumination levels were correct. He said he didn't want to maintain them, and he hasn't got back to me
So,
as far as the numbers.
do these lights provide the desired needed illumination levels? Does this 5 fixtures at this side with the
It's add-on, so 445 went to street lighting and had to add lights down this stub back in the street to make adequate lighting. These
these
are
are
additional
supplemental.
lights on the other side of the street, so they're auxiliary
Marginal.
lighting. It's more to make it pedestrian friendly than, but the lighting was adequate based on what 445 had to provide hanging off of their building.
So north side alone.
Yes.
takes care of it? So this is just additional
It's-
stuff.
right.
So if a light bulb goes off, someone's going to call us, they will call you and.
That would be the responsibility of CIE.
On the regulatory signage for the no parking, obviously that's concerned, where are we placing that signage?
I'm not aware of that. I'll look into that then.
It has to be regulated, right?
Yeah. There wasn't a tablet file that we'd prepared, so I'll take a look at it, and I can give you a PDF to confirm that we're doing the right thing then.
I don't want to create a fire hazard.
Yep, right.
Or you create.
No,
I appreciate
it is not in our plans right now, so we'll get it on there.
Maybe just process stuff. When we lift a road like this, which we voted on, for that full length of the street, does the butter on the other side, do they participate with
So
the
they've
process?
been contacted and they have just reconstructed the sidewalk on their side of the street.
Yes.
And that is remaining unchanged. We're just bringing the pavement up to meet the curb line that they left, but they have been a part of this.
So you are in possession of some emails that
Yes.
shows us the butter on the other side is not oblivious to what this commission was asked to work on?
Yep.
Yep.
So it's related to both this and Eddie's question. The building face to building face is 20 feet?
Yeah, essentially,
That's up to
by inches, yeah, so.
This is
That's
one of
why
our
we want all
many,
the buildings on, all the lights on the buildings.
Got it.
Ideally, I don't know about signage, but if that could go on the building too, that would be.
Generally, what we'll do is attach the signage on the street lighting that's attached to the building. What we do like in Salt Lane over
Right.
on Union Street.
Perfect.
That may be a way to do that.
Suspended right below the lights. Got it. All right, other questions on the projection license? From your top members of the public? All right, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
Make a motion on a petition by council on International Educational Exchange for the granting of a projection license for the installation of wall-mounted lights over portions of Athens Street, Public Way, South Boston, located on its southwesterly side, generally between 8th Street and South Boston Hall Road, as shown on plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Projection License Plan, Athens Street, 69 8th Street, South Boston. One sheet dated April 9, 2019.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the new business section of our hearing. Our first item is Harvard Street, Falcon Lane, West Roxbury, pedestrian easements, specific repairs, widening, relocation, and extension on a set of petitions by OG West Campus Land LLC.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kevin Wright from VHB. I'm here with Eric Van Dusen from New Boston and Cliff Vollmer from Davis Square Architects. We're here to present the Olmsted Green project. I'll turn it over to Eric to give you an overview of the project.
Thank you, Kevin, and good morning, members of the Commission. My name is Eric Van Dusen, Senior Vice President, New Boston Fund, and on behalf of our joint venture with our community partner, Lena Park CDC, Lena in New Boston is pleased to be there this morning to present our plans for our continued development of affordable rental housing on our Olmsted Green property. Just thought, given the size of the project, it may be helpful as a refresher. We haven't been here in about a year, and just give a quick refresher on what we're doing out in Mattapan and Dorchester and our development of affordable housing and mixed income housing. And in particular, obviously getting to what we're here today to talk about. But basically, we acquired in 2006 the 38 acres of the former Boston State Hospital from the Commonwealth, and we divided it into two campuses with Morton Street subdividing the two, East Campus, West Campus. East Campus, about 15 acres is pretty much developed with the completion of 100 units of affordable rentals, a senior apartment community managed by Hearth, and our most recent completion is the Brook Charter School campus, which includes a K-8 school combined with the Lena Park Community Center, as well as a high school that's been completed on American Legion Highway. So we are pretty much done over here, other than this 4-acre parcel, which actually we're in active discussions with BPDA and Parks to create some more open space. So that's our East Campus. Over here is our West Campus, about 24 acres. And we have completed 60 units of home ownership, mixed income condominiums, townhomes, as well as 50 units of rental housing. We are here today to talk about 47 units in 6 buildings that run along Harvard Street and onto Deering Road, which is our extension of Deering, as well as our extension of West Main is what we're completing now, building the balance of the public infrastructure on our site through our MassWorks award. That construction is ongoing, as well as 23 buildings that will house 100 units of, again, mixed income rental, and that's under construction as well. So this side of the campus is actively either now in for permitting or under construction. That leaves us this swath here, which is again going to be a continuation of home ownership. It's still in the planning stage. So pause there before I turn it over to our architect at Davis Square, Kurt Palmer, to give you a little more insight.
So just a point of clarification, Amy, these streets as petitioned, are they in West Roxbury because of a postal code situation or?
Yes, so this is West Roxbury because this part of the city was annexed into Boston with West Roxbury. It's kind of a weird jurisdictional line between West Roxbury, Hyde Park, and but it is technically in West Roxbury.
So on main insurance purposes, everything will be tagged as West Roxbury? If I'm buying a property here?
We don't know.
We don't know
how
that.
works.
Okay,
We
never
only
mind.
know what it's in as far as
From
our
PAC
maps,
documentation,
what you
it is.
are, if it's an election or what, I don't know, but this is from our purposes, this is West
I
Roxbury.
believe the postal code is actually Mattapan.
Yeah, it's a 2126. It's a matter of
But Mattapan is only a postal.
Got it, I'm with you. Thank you, sir.
Sorry, the Harvard Commons section, that is not part of your project? or-
Yeah, so that's separately owned, that was separate, acquisition by their group, and they're building those homes over there, which are single family, different than ours, attached townhome style, either rental or home ownership.
And sorry, related to that, what are the private ways and what are the public ways that go through?
Sure, so on both campuses, this is East Main Street, it goes here, and then we get, Kevin, you're gonna help me on the birds over.
Kingbird and Osprey, that D loop is also intended to be public. And then for the West Campus, it's West Main Street and Deering Road.
And everything off that, the bird names?
Yeah,
Bird names are private
all
drives.
Private ways open to public
Right.
travel, including the one we'll talk about here.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, for the most part, the spines are public, and then the sides,
That's fine.
like horseshoes are.
Hi, I'm Cliff Bomer from Davis Square Architects. I'll be really brief. I know the buildings aren't the big act here today. As Eric pointed out, there are 6 buildings. This is a bird's eye, speaking of birds, is a bird's eye view of the buildings. There are 2 12-unit buildings, 3 6-unit buildings, and 1 5-unit building that add up to the 47 rental units that we're talking about. We've been working with both D&D and BPDA to finalize the design of the buildings to ensure that they're consistent with local precedent and fit into the neighborhood nicely. So we're fully approved by them as far as the design of the buildings. Just some more perspective views. They'll be very traditional materials. As you can see, they're designed in a pretty traditional fashion with both peaked roofs, gable roofs that are pretty common in the neighborhood, 3 stories, as well as flat roof buildings. There are many triple deckers in that neighborhood, and those are the street elevations along Harvard and Erie, just to give you some idea of what we're actually proposing. Kevin will talk about all the civil work associated with that.
Thank you, Cliff. As we move forward, I wanted to begin to walk us through the actions for the project. And I'll start with the pedestrian easement. If you look at the far display, the current existing condition out on Harvard Street is a bituminous sidewalk, a little less than 5 feet or around 5 feet with guardrail. And the intention is to put the 6 buildings that Cliff just described to you there. And in order to do that, and also be consistent with what we've done in the first phase, is to give a 7-foot wide concrete sidewalk, which would propose about a 2-foot easement, which we have displayed here on the easement plan in order to do that. And that it will go from the length of the first building on Harvard Street to the last.
And is that the last building, is that what the photo on the upper left is?
Yes, the photo on the left is approximate. This is the existing Hearing Road. We're building
on that side.
On this side, so this is where, about the extent of where it is. These are existing condition photos from Google from August of 2018. Except I think the first one is actually in July. That far one is a July shot.
Basically, we'll have a 7-foot concrete sidewalk from Morton and Harvard all the way to the extent of the development.
Correct.
What's the split between rentals and home ownership?
Everything, well, I can go back to my other,
And there's a reason I'm asking that question.
so in this campus here, in this area here, so again, there's 50, and there's gonna be 147, so 200, close to 200 units here along Morton and Harvard Street and into Deering. These are all rental. And on the north side of West Main, we have the 60 and there's the 140 of home ownership.
Okay. I'm following up on Paris' comment. There was a petition put forth by the home ownership relative to resident parking. What are we gonna call this? Is this Mattapan? Is this Jamaica Plain? Is this West Roxbury?
Well, my understanding, and again, there's different jurisdictions, I guess, we get this, but my understanding of the split, this is Dorchester, this is Mattapan. I mean, everything I've worked through USPS with Brian Coyne is, this is 02126 zip code. So everybody over here gets their mail that way. So I think that's helpful. That's what I
That's very
understand.
helpful.
Thank you so much, we appreciate that.
Yep.
Thanks.
Are there any questions regarding pedestrian easement?
The regulatory sign and parking signage, do we have a plan for that thus far?
There was a type of plan that was done a while ago. We'd have to work with your group.
Again, I think what we want to do is like we did the last time, is, run it by our planning group and our active transportation, just to give it a once over.
Sure.
And another, bite at the apple here, just to make sure that we're covering ourselves with complete streets, network and guidelines.
Right. We work with your group, because this is a public way, so we want to make sure that all that's covered.
Well, do we have a site plan for BWSC for those new buildings?
We are currently in the site plan
Right.
process with BWC. We've gotten the first round of comments from Phil LaRock, which we are in the process of addressing
Okay.
and sending back to him. We've had extensive conversations about all the phases of this project. We're currently in the middle of site plan review with your group.
Okay.
So, throughout your project area, how many trees are you planting?
How many trees?
Trees, either on your private property or on the city streets over here? Because of the density of because of the home ownership density which you are creating and the absolute need for canopy in the area. Just curious.
Okay, I'll get you that answer. I don't have that answer. We actually had, we're trying to augment that, so we'll get you.
Gently, we are encouraging as many trees to be planted, as much of it as possible on your properties. And you are giving us a pedestrian easement of 2 feet, Amy, that brings our sidewalk to something. And I believe trees are highly desired in the whole city, but maybe specifically within these areas of our city.
Yeah, I mean, I guess a couple things I can answer, give a little feedback quickly on is, we obviously about the Audubon over here, and we've worked extensively with them about this final phase, just to contain the edge, maintain the edge in as many existing trees as we can. We weren't as fortunate here to save as many trees as we'd like. We've saved a very large tree here and a couple trees, but we are going to replace that and then some, I think, on the 100 unit that's here, and I'll check on the 47 and give you an overall count. But I hear you, and it's very cognizant here, but we'll continue to look at it for the balance of the site. I think if you drove through this part, there is, again, a very large tree that's saved here, and there's a number of trees, new trees that have been put in, but I can get you the actual planting count.
So when you share that information with us, would appreciate if you can be specific in terms of the quantity of trees, that's one indicator.
And caliper.
The caliber of the trees, and the amount of canopy.
Okay. Yep.
That gives the font size, you know what I'm.
Sure, yep, no, I understand, I appreciate that.
Also the quantity that you're removing.
Okay.
Yeah, because so this way we can compare lost canopy versus the new established canopy.
Kevin, you want to take us through the specific repairs? Okay.
The next plan is the specific repair plan that you have in front of you. Per the plan, we plan to install 7-foot wide sidewalks, concrete sidewalks built to the city standard. We also plan to reset some of the curb line in an effort to help with accessibility. As you know, Harvard Street is a hillside that has a rough percentage of 7%, I think, and it varies as you go from Morgan Street up to the Walk Hill intersection, which is the next major roadway. So we met with the Disability Commission, and they like the fact that we are trying to provide accessibility. Each one of these units will have an accessible route to the front door by resetting that curb on Harvard Street to give them that access. So that's what we have planned for the specific repairs, to reset the curb and to also provide that 7-foot wide concrete sidewalk. We've also, in discussions with the Disability Commission, talked about the ramp design, and we had, by way of the commission, they've reached out to Charlotte Fleetwood to discuss Vision Zero program. We were proposing apex ramps because of the existing condition. As you see here on Daring, they have existing apex ramps and not a lot of sidewalk width that would allow us to put in a crosswalk here, as well as catch basins and infrastructure to tie in. So we're proposing, if it's possible and acceptable, to tie into these locations here where they have existing apex ramps.
Would that not be an AAB action?
Would it not be an AAB action?
What would it be? Go to the apex. I believe it would be. So obviously, you folks need to take care of that if that's what you're proposing. Because we don't want to take over ownership.
So, yeah, we have requirements of when and situations that apex ramps are appropriate, but they are still working with Patricia and Sarah, and I believe that there's some outstanding comments that Disability still has for.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Patricia Mendez from the Disabilities Commission. Kevin's team came and met with us, and we're still discussing the particulars of that intersection. We want to make sure to be aligned with Vision Zero and Charlotte's team. So we're working on that. We're communicating.
Okay, my concern specifically is the AAB going to take issue with the apex ramp? If we accept it, and then we have to go back in and re-engineer the ramp, so I'd like to get an answer on that.
Right, we'll verify that for
Yep,
you.
appreciate it.
This may come up, it's related to the apex ramps. I'm not sure if we both apex ramps and a raised crossing because of the slope issues, because of the interest especially in signaling that you're entering into sort of this residential neighborhood, whether it makes sense to have a raised crossing across Deering Street in your property. I don't know whether that can work with
Yes,
apex
no, it would
ramps.
work perfectly because then you only need the ramps going across Harvard because you don't
Right.
need any ramps because it would be a flush condition as you go across the base of Deering Road.
But that way you could potentially not have essentially not have apex ramps on that side of the street, just run ramps.
In a much better pedestrian condition.
Right.
As long as it doesn't mess up drainage, that's
Yeah.
standard, okay? Back to the tree canopy thing, you are giving us a little bit more room, not us. The sidewalk is getting a little bit fatter. Still not seeing any trees. I'm assuming that you are planting a lots of trees within your property line. Yes?
Yeah, I mean, I'd
One-
go back,
No, so it'd be nice for us to see
see it,
those.
yeah.
Okay, so
This
please
is
update.
not our landscape plan, I
Right.
agree, so.
Please update this plan so we can see what's happening in terms of the tree canopy situation here. Okay? At least the same density or frequency which we normally have street trees on roadways. Okay?
And Kevin, can you just walk us through some of the things that are there seems to be some various things that are kind of in the sidewalk, essentially along Deering and at the intersection of Deering and Harvard, the handhold, the pull box potentially. Can you walk us through what those things are and why they're necessarily located in the sidewalk as opposed to
Anywhere
anywhere else? Exactly. Those pieces above it, pieces in the.
Yeah, so
That pitch point.
as you see this is under construction right now. It came last year for Deering Road. These handholds and pull boxes are for the street lighting for Deering Road. We have two because we were required to provide the smart fiber optic
Just tell me, this is what we said yes to.
the shadow, the street lighting design. So those are current, yeah, so the Deering Road is under construction and that was all approved and set up.
Perfect.
But if the DAS antenna comes, it won't dig here.
That's,
So there's the trade-off.
Oh, that brings up a point, we should, they should be known, obviously proactively getting out and working.
I'm trying.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
No,
this will-
obviously, we don't want them to see him here.
Yeah, I got it.
Right, this will solve the Deering Road.
Right.
Yes.
And we don't need lighting on the north side of Harvard Street?
Yes, what is the situation? Because Harvard Street has a variety of characteristics in terms of the street lights. So if I drive up and down Harvard Street, what would I be seeing? Because somewhere along, I believe we have put the pendant lights.
So.
How does it look around here?
Right, currently, Harvard Street has poles on one side and lights on our far side going up the hillside. We do have lighting in sight here, but we also have sent notification to John Yetman, who's also forwarded that to Joe Sullivan and Paul Kosher at the Street Lighting Department, and we're trying to coordinate with them to meet and discuss what this looks like and if they have adequate lighting or need more for that particular structure of the roadway.
Maybe if it is possible, because within the city's master plan, okay, that sounds too pompous. The city's decided to improve some of our internal arterial streets to look as nice as possible. Harvard Street may be one of those streets where we desire the pendant lights. So if he can check with engineering to see whether that's a fixture which we are hoping to have within that whole corridor, and if understandings can be accommodated here.
Yep.
Just one thing, I think this is more for PIC staff. As far as these streets coming online, notification to emergency services, that's a major concern that it gets into their CAD.
Yep, so as soon as we lay it out, we notify them, and it goes in as a pending street. And I believe that they don't turn it on until some member has actually verified that it's open and they go out there. But we'll give them notification for every street as we create them, and they put them in their CAD system as pending.
Okay, and who makes that notification?
God, man.
I got my standard list. It's not only emergency services, but it's also the assessing department, the fire,
Yeah, but
police,
I think-
EMS.
Yeah.
A specific comment that when Amy said that it's pending,
Yeah.
and then when there's notification that it actually comes online, who does?
Yeah, so that's a terribly handled situation, there's nobody who
The
knows
challenging
when it comes
situation we are
online.
working on.
So it goes as pending, and then basically the first person to find out, it kind of, once it'll come off the map as pending and somebody's verified it, but there's no formal system for knowing specifically when a street is open.
Carrying on, this is the widening of the location.
Maybe you sure you want this thing to be open to public travel, the way it's being laid out?
We only have an open to public travel option because of public safety. So if it's a street, a truck,
Okay, right.
fire truck.
So it is never ever to go public.
Correct. Well, yes, in order for any street to become public, it would have to meet our street standards. So there's a lot of dimensional requirements and parking
True,
issues
but I
and
don't want
private
to,
assets.
but Amy, I don't want us to bear half the cost of converting this
So
street.
we will write that they shall never become
It
public.
shall never be, because it has taken some left turns and
Yeah.
right turns here that is
Yep.
so off the mark.
I get it.
The unconventional shape at one end of Falcon Lane is to get the sidewalk into
Right.
the private way layout.
Yeah, but yes.
There's a level of
Okay,
unconventionality
well, it'll never-
which we are supportive of you as long as it shall remain a private street. However, each homeowner needs to understand that this will continue to be a private street and not to be petitioned to the city in the future to become a public street. So that translates to how the utilities are, hopefully whatever the utilities are of acceptable level, so it doesn't create a situation for water and sewer commission.
Yep.
One note on that, which is related to what we talked about at the beginning. In Harvard Commons, this has come up as an issue where the residents have expressed an
Yes.
interest of converting private ways to public streets. So I think just the clarity about ownership from the beginning is going to be important.
It'll be
Yeah,
the order that this will.
Yeah, I think all the it works for us, all the bird streets are staying private, open to public travel. And the two that don't have bird names, the West Main, on this West Campus and Deering, are obviously built and assumed to stay public and are public streets.
Are we going to have bird names left after this? Probably none of us in this bit.
They may have some for the next phase.
So this will stay as private? Okay.
So just on top of that too, as far as getting back with EMS and emergency services, making sure that the streets are clearly signed as private ways versus the public signage. So the street name signs need to say Osprey Way, private way. So we want to make sure that that gets implemented.
The lighting, however, Amy, is designed to complete city standards, right?
Yes, private ways, public ways, lighting is a city requirement, and
And
so
city
it
maintenance
conforms to all
also,
standards,
right.
and all has been reviewed by the street lighting department.
I believe we don't have any requirements with the private ways, but I do want to review it, and I'll get back to you on that.
Right, so the only understanding that I have is that in order for the sewer and the water main to be taken
Right.
by PwC, there has to be a private and public travel. Which
Right, with
is,
the, we'd have to get an easement. I'm pretty
Right.
sure we don't, need anything, but
Right.
I just wanted to just double check it.
right, so
Yeah.
we're in the process of doing that through the site
Right.
plan process with Phil Rock and then working with Jim Steinkraus as we've done on the other phases to outline
Right.
those easements.
Okay.
For those utilities. But I can't walk you through the rest of this action. As we've kind of just talked, Falcon Lane, portion of it was built back in 2007, so that's what's outlined here in black. And there may be some revisions to this based on the comments I've received from the staff, PIC staff, as to how that gets shown. But in order to provide the city with the requirements for a private way open to public travel, we, with the 40-foot widths and sidewalks on both sides, we blended this to get it back to this requirement here for you so that this can be a private way open to public travel. And as we stated, it includes all the sidewalks necessary to get around on the site. We are providing accessible paths. The two of the buildings have accessible units on the first floor, so we're providing accessible parking at those units so that they have a direct path to their building and their unit. We're in discussion with the Disability Commission for sidewalk. Currently, most of the walks on the private ways have porous pavement capabilities to match with porous pavements in the streets to help with stormwater and stormwater management and drainage design for the campus. We met with the Disability Commission. They've asked if we could provide concrete sidewalks on the building side, which we are in the process of finalizing and just discussing with them, as we have a lot of accessible ramps and locations that seem to work better with the concrete, which we would continue to finalize with that group of commission to do. This side of the street, there are no homes, so we're proposing to continue to keep that as a porous bituminous pathway so that folks have access from this point to this point on Deering, and that would help with the stormwater management that we're trying to accomplish with Boswell.
Who is responsible for cleaning the catch basins along that private way? To manage the stormwater runoff, cleaning the catch basins.
Private development is responsible.
Ownership. We are. Ownership, the ownership of that project will be. That's what we've done on the others.
Tom, clearly cleaning the catch basins, because these are some of the little details that sometimes get lost in the translation. Have it in the maintenance agreement. Okay, so if there should be some flooding issue or whatever, they're not going to call Water and Sewer to come and clean those catch basins.
Concrete on the south side, bituminous on the north side?
That's currently the thought.
My guess is you may have precedents that are going to say you should have concrete on both sides.
You know it's going to happen, right? Manage the situation so that it doesn't become awkward for the chief to be receiving letters saying, hi, upgrade
Why
this
is it
site.
the best material, I guess?
Well, but they both were porous pavement. As I met with the Disability Commission, the ask was to consider concrete sidewalks, and we felt like we could do concrete on this side because the buildings and the residences go over here where there weren't any buildings.
The rest of your phases though are concrete sidewalks, right?
Yes.
The fields are, yes.
Everything should be concrete sidewalks.
I believe Eager had a porous pavement sidewalk as well.
There are still nice people that are moving into the city that are still confused by the slight differences between private ways and public ways. So let's not give them motivation as to see these slight differences that provoke a conversation where they wonder, gee, how come this sidewalk is of one type of material, then they write to us, we have to explain it is not ours, and then it becomes really awkward. So it's yours, but we will strongly encourage you, right, Amy? We don't get to tell them what to do other than serious encouragements.
Yeah, I guess
the price difference might be marginal.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I guess the only thing I don't know, and Kevin can look into it, as we were saying, the whole stormwater management process and the fact that this Falcon Lane is permeable pavement and so I'm just...
Sorry, sir, so sorry for interrupting you. But if you have that porous sidewalk, you will need to maintain that. Otherwise, it's going to get clogged.
Right,
then
right.
Its effectiveness, the runoff coefficient from that sidewalk, there's a high degree of probability that it's not going to be achieved.
Well, we have a pretty good track record on the other private ways that we have. We've done some vacuuming and we've done some, so far so good, but I hear you. I throw that out as a reservation about changing that. It wasn't done totally for cost or aesthetics. I thought there was some stormwater management, issue related to that, but we'll look at that.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments?
Yeah, I just have a couple questions. So I noticed that you put the sewer on here, so now that it's been decided to keep it as a private, open to public travel. I know you mentioned we were talking about the easement, so we have to have that stuff in place before we move forward with putting the utilities on the drawing, on the plan. We have to have,
Easements in place?
yeah, we have to have that. If this is gonna be a private way open to public travel, we have to have the easements in place before we can approve.
So it's my understanding that if it's open to public travel, you don't need a stated easement document, that the open to public travel can suffice for water and sewers requirements, but I think that we should verify that.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah, it's usually
That's what we've done the other way.
curb to curb
okay,
situation. But we can talk about that.
okay, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, bring it up now.
That's fine,
Yeah.
because as I said, we are in the process of getting the site plan back into Phil to address the comments.
Right.
And one of the changes will be, we will have a water main in here, because this will now be a private way open to public travel.
Right.
And that water main will be included, and all services for these buildings will go to that main.
Okay,
So we'll work on that, getting back into your group, and as I said before, we've done it in the past, we've worked out those easements with Jim Steincross and the legal team.
right, okay, all right, great, thank you.
Other questions or comments? Amy or Todd? Members of the public? Anything else you guys want to cover? Appreciate it. It's a great project. Thank you for all the work we'll do over the next 2 weeks. Does that work? for you guys? All right, see you on June 20th. Thanks so much. Our next item of new business is 285 and 300 Babcock Street, Ashford Street, Brighton, discontinuing specific repairs, projection license on a set of petitions by the trustees of Boston University.
Good morning, I'm Paul Rinaldi from Boston University, and I'm here with Chelsea Christensen from Niche Engineering. The project that we're presenting to you today for new business is located at the intersection of Ashford Street and Babcock Street. The largest component of the project is associated with making accessibility improvements to the K Center. Our idea for this project was presented to the Commission around 2012, when we were permitting the New Balance field across the street. As part of New Balance field project, we relocated the curb on the east side of Babcock Street, generally identifying that which we would propose at a later time for where ramp stair elements would be serving K Center. Chelsea?
Good morning, Chelsea Christensen from Niche Engineering. We are applying for 3 actions today. The discontinuance of a portion of Babcock Street, specific repairs along Babcock and Ashford Street, and a projection license for canopy on Ashford Street. The proposed improvements are sketched out here. This is the new entrance to the K Center. The Babcock Street sidewalk comes down at a relatively steep grade here, so we are creating a walkway along here to make that entrance accessible.
The previous one, can you just show us which the K Center is? That's my own.
Yes, this is actually the same angle we're
Okay.
looking at here. This is the K Center, the existing K Center entrance right here.
And the area
this is the 300 Babcock entrance.
And on that sketch, the area you want us to discontinue is on that sketch.
Is the K Center entry here. And this portion actually is already discontinued, so it's,
Really?
this section of Babcock Street
North of Ashford on Babcock.
was previously discontinued, so it's a sliver really along the front of the entrance to the building that will be adjacent to the discontinued portion of Babcock Street.
So what's the intent of that, to extend that discontinuance within the public right away?
To construct stairs and walls to create the accessible entrance. Right now, the walkway into the building is too steep for accessibility standards, and so we need to raise it up and create some stairs and also a walkway to make it accessible.
Case Center was constructed 1970, 1971. It was constructed right on the property line. In fact, in those days, I mean, nobody really concerned was handicap accessibility. So there is a very, so as Babcock Street goes down, moving north, Case Center's landing is, or Case Center's first floor is higher. So you've got the kind of two angles in conflict. So this is proposing to extend the first floor elevation of Case into this plaza area that would be part of the discontinuance, a sloped walkway.
Slope walkway. It's not too steep to be a ramp. It is a walkway because of the grade that's coming down. It works out that way.
And then transition with stairs in other areas.
Any fee ownership is
Is with that, so it'll get appraised and,
will still get some.
yes. It's the better situation.
That's simple orientation.
So the discontinuance is only that sidewalk area, not the roadway?
Correct, it's just the area that's actually gonna contain the stairs, because we can't have private property stairs within the public right of way. So it's really just the extent of the accessibility to get into that building, that needs to be a part of the building's parcel.
It's about 800 square feet, 600?
700.
700.
And we had already widened the sidewalk in this area as part of the New Balance Field project in anticipation of this. And so the public sidewalk here is about 15 feet in this part of Babcock Street and widens out to 19 feet in front of the entryway, leaving a minimum 5-foot walkway between the stair railing and the top of the pedestrian ramp. So we have all concrete sidewalk within the remaining public way of at least 7 feet. And then the...
All right, so basically discontinuance is basically in the back, so continuation of Babcock to Ashford on that side, will remain a walkway?
A public walkway, yes, yep.
We still have our standard sidewalk.
With the necessary handicap curb cuts, et cetera.
And how does one sort of define or design so that people know that they are on the walkway, they're on the ramp or sort of walkway going to the building as opposed to remaining on Babcock Street for folks who are going further north?
There is a wall defining between it, and there's also a bench in the discontinued area and a planter at this corner with some BU signage and another tree associated with it.
And even when if one were to use that walkway and you're at the entry level, there are stairs in two directions to transition down to either the discontinued portion of Babcock to the north or the public sidewalk to the west, west.
Keep walking us through the...
So the associated specific repairs are designed to mimic what was across the street from New Balance Field. So there are four existing trees in the middle of the widened sidewalk here that are to be removed and replaced with 6 new trees along the back of curb, intermittent with the porous brick pavers along the back of curb for the extent of the reconstruction. There is some utility work that's being...
Agency, sorry. You had 3 pits. You got 4x6 3 pits.
4x6, yes.
I'm looking at the Babcock Street drawings. Hope to God I am able to read your orientation, but do you see the Babcock Street? Are the plans over there?
Yes, these
Okay,
are...
so the 4x6 3-pit orientation, it seems like the plans which I have, it shows the 3-pit. I think you just need to join your arrows properly so that
The trees are in the middle of the Babcock Street sidewalk.
They are today.
The existing trees are, yes.
And the reason for that is that's a throwback from when the curb line was adjacent to them.
but the 3-pit, the 6 feet is parallel to the main road, right?
Yes. There's also a line showing where the structural soil is around the tree pit. which is the darker line that's wider around that.
So structural soil extends beyond the limits of the tree pit itself.
See, the
surface
proposed street is there. Okay. See, look at the arrow, it is going to this side. Maybe can you come in for a moment, because I'm just not doing a good job showing this.
I know, we left the scoring on, so.
Okay,
it's a little
so
hard to
no,
see.
which is it that? Because right now you are,
This 4x6 square is the tree pit itself.
okay,
This dashed line is a structural soil.
all right.
These lines are the
Then you need to
scoring
change
pattern.
the weight of that,
Okay,
okay?
So the street is here.
And they're going to go right there.
yeah. So the only other reconstruction on Babcock Street is to relocate the existing drain. It was underneath the proposed stairs. Boston Water and Sewer is in the process of reviewing this. We just received comments back and we'll be responding to those today.
I know you covered this before, Chelsea, but the width between essentially the wall of the stairs and the furnishing zone, what's left over on Babcock Street?
You said minimum 5, that's a little bit.
The 5 feet is the end of the railing of the stairs to the top of the ramp. So that you have a 5-foot level landing at the top of the ramp that's not impeded by construction.
Are you okay with? Sorry.
Hi,
Just want to make sure that you're okay.
Thank you for your questions. I think the team has done a very good job dealing with all the constraints, the existing building entry, and they're doing a great improvement on the entrance for the venue. Thank you.
So moving on to Ashford Street, we are requesting a canopy license for the entrance of 300 Babcock, which is this side entrance. This was the case center we're just looking at. This is 300 Babcock. Right now there's a step coming off this door, and so we're raising the sidewalk to make this a flush entrance and creating a new canopy above it. And so we're requesting a canopy license for this signage and specific repairs for improvements to the sidewalk, including raising up this corner to make this door accessible, and then reconstructing the length of Ashford Street along the building with 5-foot minimum concrete sidewalk and then a 1.5 porous paver strip along the back. And that is the extent of our proposed construction.
I'm not sure that the projection is quite 10 feet off the finished grade. Is it possible to make sure that we have a 10-foot clearance?
10 feet high.
Yeah.
Showing that before?
I know it's hair splitting, but.
No, still, no, that's still good.
It means 10.
Details matter.
Other questions or comments?
I did receive a construction management plan several months ago. The contractor, main concern was they wanted to basically take all the sidewalks at once to do this reconstruction. Obviously, we have uses out there, specifically the Family Justice Center with Boston Police. So we're looking to have it more phased, basically maintain some of that parking out there. So, you know.
That was communicated to them?
Yes.
I'll double check on it, make sure.
Other questions or comments? Any of that? Members of the public? All right, see you guys in 2 weeks. Does that work?
2 weeks. Thanks very much.
Our next item is 1-45 Union Street, Boston proper, Sidewalk Cafe licenses on a set of petitions by Mr. Jeff Baird, Sons of Boston, Noel Summers, and Old Colony Corporation.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is John Schmid with Niche Engineering, and I'm here on behalf of 6 of the 8 restaurants along Union Street, seeking approval and support of a outdoor cafe. As you may recall, Union Street was recently reconstructed as the Connect Historic Boston project, where it's provided a smooth transition between the sidewalk and the paved surface. We've been working closely with various city agencies for the past several months to get to this point today. I'd like each applicant to introduce themselves.
Jeff Beard, White Bull Tavern, Blackstone Grill.
Sina Sanchez, the Sons of Boston.
Christine Higgins, Tennessee's of Boston, and Patios.
So the first applicant is the White Bull Tavern at 1 Union Street, and their cafe consists of 26 seats. The second is Blackstone at 15 Union Street. Their cafe consists of 8 seats. Sons of Boston, 19 Union Street, 20 seats. Hennessy's at 25 Union Street, 18 seats. Patios at 33 Union Street, 8 seats. And the Bell and Hand at 45 Union Street, 48 seats. Now, the design has been worked closely with the Landmarks Commission, and we received approval from them in April. We also met with the BPDA, who has given this blessing, and we have worked with the Disabilities Commission, who we're just waiting for his final sign-off. Sarah's on vacation, so when she returns before the public hearing, we'll have that blessing. There's been a lot of, and I think the plan that tells the story the best is the overall plan, which I have on the board here. We also work closely with the Boston Fire Department to ensure that safe and accessible emergency access and egress is provided. We are providing a 20-foot wide path of travel along Union Street for fire emergency vehicles. And this is, we met with Deputy Chief Joe McMahon about a month ago. We have sent him drawings, and it's my understanding that he's okay with things. We also are providing a 90-foot loading zone or handicap parking sliver along Union Street, opposite Union Oyster House. So this will allow deliveries to occur without impeding the traffic configuration and access.
Sorry. So the loading zone is going to be in front of the Union Oyster House.
Correct.
That is not part of here.
Correct.
They are here.
No.
Right, they're right.
I didn't say that.
Right, they're not. They're not.
It's on the Holocaust Memorial side, the designating loading zone. It's not up in front of anybody's establishment. It's on the southern side of it.
Right.
But there is no cafe in front of the Union Oyster House.
It's existing, it's a Connect Historic Boston.
Yes.
Good.
Why was that spot located? Why was that? No.
Not, yeah, okay.
Whole street. Why was that spot taken?
Because it's the spot that is most accessible to all restaurants, and we are worried about not impeding the loading operations of the Union Oyster House as they stand today.
And they had traditional handicap parking, which was on the
Yeah.
beginning
Yeah.
of Union Street to provide
Yes.
accessibility.
Yeah.
It
So-
basically has not changed.
Yeah.
Right. In the design itself, we are utilizing the bollards that were installed as part of the Connected Historic Boston as the back of the cafe. And then on the front of the cafe, we're going to be installing posts in a chain fence similar to what the Holocaust Museum has across the way, and that's been blessed by the Landmarks Commission. And we're also going to reintroduce the planters that were installed as part of Historic Boston, Connected Historic Boston. They are now in a DPW yard. When this thing is activated, they will come out, and they are actually part of the configuration, so they provide a visual and as well as a physical barrier. And we're also implementing the recent guidelines, public realm guidelines for wheel stops and surface mounted reflective bollards at the end of each cafe in the direction that traffic is coming. So between those, meeting those standards as well as the raised planters, we feel that pedestrians are certainly visually will be protected and somewhat structurally protected, or physically protected.
One of the things we raised for us, John, is by the Freedom Trail Foundation, is just the comfort and safety of folks who are dining at these cafe tables with vehicles passing essentially to their left. Can you talk a little bit about, is it just it's post and chain essentially dividing the table and the roadway?
Yeah, so.
If you flip to one of the other sheets, there's a picture of the rail.
So, for instance, here we will have you have the bollards here in the back.
Right.
You're going to have the planter that's going to come out to the face. The planter's 4 feet tall.
Yep.
And then we have the post and chain bollards that will run along here. So a vehicle coming down, not only will have the reflective barrier and the real stop, it'll have the planter, and then here and there are bollards that will be into the ground with the chains. And traffic is this way. So we have the visual barrier, we have the city's public ground barrier here and here, and then we have the planters that here, bookend the cafes.
So what we did in accordance with that, we had the proponent, went out with Captain Fong, went out with the Boston Fire, just to make sure from the public safety ramification, that as we discussed previously, and they were comfortable with that design.
Thank you.
I do want to make sure that if this goes forward, if there's feedback from sort of your patrons about sort of proximity of a vehicle which is moving down the street to them just sitting and dining, that is obviously something none of us want. So we just want to make sure that we've got that appropriate width between any table and any flow of vehicles.
So the questions I'm going to ask is out of sheer ignorance, so I apologize. First of all, very happy to see all of you here because that was the intent when we created this Union Street. I'm a little bit puzzled by not seeing one of the restaurants, which is the Union Oyster House, right? We are not part of them. No, I say it's not part of this petition. The location of this loading zone, does it preclude the Union Oyster House from having a sidewalk cafe?
So I think that the Union Oyster House can speak for the Union Oyster House, but they cannot, I think, have a cafe because of their landmark status, and have said that they don't intend to have a cafe. The location there was about the convenience of their room.
But should they have a cafe, the loading zone will still be available, it'll be about half the size.
Right now, we enough room.
We're at 90 feet, my brother's about 45 feet.
That's what I want.
Yes.
Clarified, so that this commission doesn't take any action that precludes from someone from doing something else.
That is correct. It's opposite Marshall Street, which is a pedestrian pathway.
Right.
So there's adequate space here, about 45 feet. Should the Union Oyster House and the other sauce, the other restaurant, should they decide to go for this cafe.
Can you walk us through 90 feet, sort of why we think that is sufficient loading space, if we think it's sufficient loading space for all of these restaurants and other interests, and how that would actually be managed to ensure that's the case?
So we haven't really got into the times of loading operation.
Yeah.
But 90 feet will allow, two 30-foot box trucks or one larger truck to come in. Maybe you folks could talk about how your deliveries operate, when the hours are.
Adam Kessler, Bellingham. We get most of our deliveries in the morning for operations, really start from the restaurants. I would say 90% of the trucks will pull up on Union Street, park to the left-hand side if there's no cars there, drop off their goods, and leave by the time that anybody's open. We do have a lot of trucks that now park on the Hanover Street side, and they bring straight down Union Street that way. That seems to be a great access point as well. There's plenty of room on the Hanover Street run for a truck to park here, a lane of traffic, another lane of traffic. Nobody's interrupted.
Can I get a little bit more amplification on your answer, or more to the point, clarification? You said that most of your deliveries come in the morning, right? Okay. So sometimes I see a disconnect between operations of such fine establishments such as yours and the morning rush hour from a pedestrian perspective.
Correct.
Like at 8 o'clock in the morning, I want this space to be a pedestrian space, not to be faced with a vehicle of any sort. So how would you help us to manage that situation?
We'd have to work with the purveyors in order to get them to deliver prior to 8 o'clock.
So we need that understanding on all your part, because I can't do the we. I'm so excited about what you all are doing.
Me too.
Okay, this was thought through when we were designing this street to create a pedestrian presence, and we want those people to be comfortable. But we recognize you being there. I don't want to sound like some pontificating parts here, okay? But that service delivery component of seeing a large truck while I'm trying to get to work may leave a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth to preclude me from enjoying your fine establishments in the evening. So we do need to recognize when that morning rush hour pedestrian traffic is there and try not to be in that zone. Because some of the reasons that compromises the downtown crossing experience is similar. You know, we shut off traffic at 10 o'clock in the morning. Oh, I feel sorry for all the pedestrians that are experiencing that space during the morning rush hour. Okay? So please, we need your sensitivity before the city is forced to tell you when you can have your deliveries. Okay?
I think it would be an assistance to us.
I'm sorry, sir?
I think it would be an assistance to us.
Yes, yes, so that the pedestrian experience is magnified.
This is much more, expertise than mine, but related to that, if we have space for 2 30-foot box trucks or a single truck, there are 4 businesses here, there's a 5th that's in the room. If we are getting those all done during a more narrow, all those deliveries done during a more narrow band of time in the morning, we would want some assurance that that actually can happen, that actually can be managed, that this is actually sufficient space. So just that level of analysis and frankly, to Par's point, sort of assured coordination and collaboration across all of you to make sure that this actually functions the way it's supposed to function is going to be essential. Is that, then between now and the public hearing, we would just want to see some way of you documenting that can actually be done. So,
Sorry, can you just give me one more? Someone here must have taken a leadership role, unless you all are all equally brilliant, which is even better for me. But we need you all to function as one team. It is paramount because the street was built to pulsate as one nice voice. When someone misbehaves, it sort of makes it a little bit challenging for all of us. Now, if you all have, I'm sure you have been to other cities, other great cities around the planet where they have pedestrian streets. They do get deliveries, they do have street cleaning, they do have, you know, garbage collection, but those times are not in conflict with when the pedestrian action is there. So we need your help to keep it as pedestrian friendly as possible before we are forced to tell you one of 2 things. Guess what? No deliveries. That would be awkward. Or deliveries from 2 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the morning, which will be a cost to be borne by who? You. But the situation does get managed in other countries, in other great cities. So we are aspiring to that level because of these amazing opportunities which we have. So please help us to help you to make this place great.
Thank you.
And I think to that point, I mean, in the many, many, many meetings that we had, it's something that their objective also is when they open up these outdoor patios, they don't want deliveries coming through the patio or into the restaurant during business hours, et cetera. So it's in their interest.
Yep.
And I think right now, the core group team here has done a good job thus far.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I can walk through each restaurant?
Great.
First restaurant is the White Bull Tavern. They will have 13 tables, 26 seats, 2 of them which are accessible, which is, meets the code of 5% for accessible seating. Next the Buddy Restaurant, which will have a shared chain between the 2 establishments. It's the Blackstone Grill, 15 Union Street. They will have 4 tables, 8 seats with 1 accessible seat here. Essentially, every layout is the same, okay, other than the seat count. The materials are the same. The chains, the closures are all the same. And that was something, that was Landmark's focus on this because they want something that was unified. But they did allow them some flexibility in the colors that they use for personal identity. We used these tables and chairs are really just for sizing purposes. Again, the furniture will be different as they proceed. The Sons of Boston at 19 Union Street will have 10 tables with 20 seats and 1 accessible seat here. And the doorways, the entrances into each cafe is opposite the entrance to the restaurant, so it all is aligned appropriately. Hennessy's at 25 Union Street will have 9 tables, 18 seats with 1 accessible seat here. And the patio is at 33 Union Street. We'll have 4 tables with 8 seats and 1 accessible seat here as well. You know, the cafes vary in size. We have 2 at 8, and the largest is at, I think, 48 So they all will have their own personalities, their own identity, but they will be similar in structure. And then 45 Union Street, which is the largest one, will have 48 seats, 24 tables, 3 accessible spaces. And again, we have the planters and the wheel stops at the end here, the planter at the end here, and then the chain railing throughout here. So that's essentially what we're proposing.
One of the things that should come up from feedback during the conversation with the Freedom Trail was just the experience of somebody who was on the Freedom Trail, walking along with obviously patrons being served on the other side of the Freedom Trail. Can you walk us just through a little bit of your plan on how to make sure that that's a good experience both for your staff, for your customers, as well as people who are walking the Freedom Trail?
Well, I would anticipate, and they can correct me if I'm wrong, but as the server comes from the restaurant to the cafe, they will pause and allow the public traffic, regardless of the Freedom Trail or just the public in general, means of unimpeded access. And once that path of travel is cleared, because they're carrying trays as well, they don't want to be bumping up anyway. And waiters and waitresses are professionals. They deal with the public all the time, and they know it's in their own best interest to not cause any impediment to the neighborhood or to the public because it reflects what in their establishment.
100%. Hopefully after their little tour, they will come back and experience your facilitation.
Absolutely. And pickup, drop off, TNC, taxi.
So I think that at this point, like, we wanted to get through this hurdle, and at this point, it's going to be about inventorying that curb edge and making sure that, I think that the Lyfts and Ubers up here are definitely a known entity, and right now, they want to and do continue to pick up in that area where the cafes are missing. That seems to be the, but yeah, no, we have to inventory everything that's out there and make sure that it's replicated somewhere. But I think that this spot should have a TNC zone regardless.
So to do a curb analysis of the south side.
What we're finding right now is the geo fence that they're for the pickup is that unfortunately it's on right now, it's on North Street.
Yeah, and
Just before
and I
Union
think-
Street.
Yeah. So it's the conversation with BTD about, I think, all of them in this little area and where they want to be versus where the people are actually looking for the drop off.
That's not your problem. That's.
We're trying, yeah.
I'm good, because I had no idea what you're talking about.
You never heard that before, have you?
Other questions or comments on this? Maybe our time?
Yep.
Members of the public? Any comments, which, please? Everyone, absolutely, please.
I am joined, can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
I'm joined, can I come forward?
You can, but for the taping, it's actually, I apologize.
Want to use that microphone right there?
Whichever one you prefer.
I don't need a mic, it's fine. I think you'll hear me. I'm joined with Jim Malin, my general manager. I'm the proprietor of the only establishment that serves beverages and food, common vicular license, called the Union Oyster House.
So would you be so kind to speak to the microphone because I'm half.
I'm sorry.
deaf.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
We'll try that. So I'm representing Union Oyster House today, and whether it's a David and Goliath type of situation, I'm not sure which person I'm playing at this stage. For the record, or public record, I would be opposed to this proposal. I'd like to go on record for that. What I'm hearing today is there's 90 feet that will be for what is considered for commercial parking for deliveries and services. I personally think 90 is totally inadequate. When I arrived at work today about 8:30, 9 o'clock, there were 9 service vans on the street, 2 delivery trucks and so forth. 2 delivery trucks take up 90 feet. It's just totally inappropriate, and it's totally would not work. So our concerns are security, safety, certainly the accessibility to be able to service not just the merchants that are present today, but certainly the offices in the buildings, law offices, whatever they may be. There's constant activity on the street, and I don't see this proposal addressing those concerns. If you're presenting a proposal that shows 20 feet, I would call that seemingly on paper, a diagram that will pass a litmus test. But personally, that's really not the reality what goes on every day on Union Street. It doesn't matter what hour, even if we control, and we try to control our deliveries and services, but you can't control an emergency service. We had a break in the weather, and this morning, most of those vans that we're servicing were HVAC, needs for air conditioning. So it challenges the system. It's not just the merchants that operate the food establishments, it's everybody on the street. It's a lot of activity that goes on. I'm also concerned, certainly on a walkway or the sidewalk, bringing food and certainly alcoholic beverages across something in a range of about 16 feet from the licensed operator to an area called cafes. I believe at a prior hearing, or not a hearing, but a meeting that I had, I was told that there was no other cafes in the city of Boston that exist that are detached from the licensed. So you're really kind of crossing the pathway of a historic trail, Freedom Trail, that has very heavy traffic, a lot of families, people traveling, whether it be families and, young ones with strollers or handicap or ADA issues. And that's why the blessing was the sidewalk that really has been established, very wonderful, and we really implore the National Park Service for looking for those funds. But the whole idea, I believe, of connecting the historic trails was clearly to invite crowds of people. We got much more activity, I believe, as much activity walking on Union Street as probably any other city. If we're looking for something a little bit different and being visionary, I think you have to look at the basic operations of what we have to deal with every day. I can't. And I also hear that the 90 feet is going to be across the way in front of my restaurant. I find that really, it's not my decision, but I just find that very inappropriate, that we should be penalized in a certain way that this is the only accessible area. Keep in mind, 2 large trucks take up 90 feet on deliveries. It's just not humanly possible on a daily basis to serve the needs of people on Union Street. You have no parking, no drop-off on 4 perimeter streets. North Street, Congress, Hanover, and Blackstone have no parking. There is no accessibility. You do have these little lanes. We've kept them private as much because they're part of a National Historic Landmark called the Blackstone Block. We respect that. We tried to keep deliveries off Marshall Street, which we were asked to, and we do everything we possibly can. But there is no other place that we can really kind of live and operate, whether it's a restaurant or it's simply an office, a public office. We don't have much, I think there is a little bit of residential on the street. So we appreciate the proposal and respect our neighbors, but I do find it, I cannot accept it being presented. Thank you for your time.
I appreciate that. Please go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Jim Malin. I'm the general manager at the Union Oyster House. And to refer to something that we're talking about, the 90-foot area, and I know Joe has mentioned this, but every one of us on that street buy an extremely wide variety of goods and services. 2 trucks going in there, or a space for 2 trucks in the window of 6 o'clock to noontime is not going to work. And I would ask that you survey all of the establishments, what their delivery schedules are, how many trucks, how many times a week. I know on a Tuesday I have 2 deliveries of a beverage. We have a massive grocer pulling in there. On Wednesday, I may have something else. On Thursday and on Friday, we're all loading up. Budweiser shows up on a Saturday to unload, and they bring a large beer truck. So it's constant. As Joe mentioned, there were 5 service vehicles. That's not something you can predict, but it's certainly something you can rely upon. Things break down, heating, cooling system, refrigeration, everything. And we need to have the space for that. 90 feet is not gonna do it. And as I said, I really think you need to look at just how heavy the traffic is there, because there is no place else for these vehicles to go, short of maybe on the side of Hanover Street. They can't go out back. They couldn't get out back on a Friday or a Saturday with everything locked there. You can't put them on Congress Street. At the ribbon cutting, 2 of them had to park on Congress Street because Union Street was closed. If that situation happens again during rush hour, you'll hear the beeping on every floor of City Hall. You know? So I would really ask that you look at that a little bit further before you make any decisions. Thank you.
Appreciate that. A couple of follow-up notes on that for the proponents. We obviously talked already about the adequacy of the 90 feet. I think between now and the public hearing, to reinforce those points, it's useful for us to understand how will 90 feet be adequate for the full loading needs of for each establishment that is here. How will that be managed? How will that be regulated? Second, Joe mentioned the set of public safety concerns. Obviously, there's been a number of conversations with a variety of public safety agencies, but just to sort of document that those conversations have occurred is helpful. And then third, and I don't think I'm misquoting you, Joe, but I think that you're right that we are trying, that this is a proposal that is trying to do something which is both different and visionary, but we don't want it to impede the actual operations of the businesses that are happening on the street. That means that if this goes forward, there's going to be a need for evaluation, for learning, for understanding, and potentially for iteration. And consequently, back to Para's question or point in the beginning, how we think about working with the proponent if this proposal goes forward to potentially make adjustments as we learn how it actually works in operation would be important. So a plan from you about what that would actually look like, again, were this to go forward, would be valuable. So those 3 things, the documentation of the loading zone, the documentation of the public safety conversations, how we will sort of learn and adjust and adapt as this goes forward, are things we'd want to hear back from you for the public hearing. Other things that, okay. All right. Amy or Todd? Members of the public? All right. 2 weeks enough time?
Thank you for the opportunity to work with you.
Okay, June 20th, we'll see you. Thank you. Moving on to our next item of new business, 62 Potomac Street, West Roxbury, specific repairs on a petition by Dedham Development, LLC.
Joseph Vizzola, 3841 Washington Street in Boston. I'm representing Dedham Development LLC and Tony McDonough, Boston firefighter, intending to live in this house when it is built. The application is to remove a section of wall that's owned by the city of Boston. It lines up in front of this private property. It's a project to build a single-family house. It's been reviewed and approved by the BPDA and the Boston Water and Sewer Commission. But in order to gain access, this section has to come out, and they will build a driveway behind the opening.
So a section of the existing wall has to be removed to be
correct.
In which part of Potomac Street and where? And where the heck am I? Because there's no locus map here.
What's the address for the
62 Potomac. It's parallel to Mount Vernon Street. It's towards
the neighborhood of
West Roxbury.
The real West Roxbury or some fake West Roxbury?
Not that. West Roxbury.
Mount Vernon.
Yes.
And you need to remove.
They're creating a driveway so that necessitates cutting the wall. And the wall is owned by Public Works.
Our wall?
Yes. So this
How far does the wall extend?
far.
multiple properties on
Multiple
this.
properties own that thing, so you are cutting into our wall and then suddenly the integrity of the wall gets compromised, at which point I have a headache.
Well, it is not going to, in fact, it's going to relieve pressure on the wall. So by taking
You say
out...
that, but now the contractor who is going to touch that wall is going to disturb it. You know how this conversation goes, right?
Well-
I don't have site control, your contractor goes, touches it, the vibration causes the wall to collapse 2 houses downstream. How is that managed?
No, I don't think that's quite the issue, because what's going to end up happening is the contractor is going to remove soil in the beginning, in the course of excavation, remove pressure from behind that wall, and then when the foundation from the house goes in, it's effectively going to be a parallel wall.
So you're going to reintegrate the wall to the house?
Sorry, say that again.
Reintegrate the wall to the house?
No, they're going to be parallel and distant apart. So the house itself is going to
offset,
reduce the amount of pressure.
The building foundation and not the wall behind the building.
Yeah.
Have
The
you
foundation is gonna be basically, you're gonna basically post-tension, you're gonna basically take the structural elements from the wall to the foundation.
Effectively, because there's a
Is that
distance...
something that ISD has looked at?
Yes, they have, and they have no problems with it. It's an as-of-right project, and
Yeah, but
ISD
it's the
has...
same wall. That might be as a right, but
My
is it a WPA wall?
No, it's not.
It's not.
the hell did I do this?
What's this? Similar to what I think we do with water and sewer pre and post projects, is there some level of testing that we can do pre and post, particularly with, I think, the existing wall that is not in front of your property, but is in front of the adjacent property, just to ensure, to Para's point?
Well, we've inspected it, just looking for cracks. It is in good shape. It's a solid wall, but inspection as in...
We wanted if you had it inspected prior to starting work, we want an inspection after work to show that there's no.
That we can do.
So that way those individual property owners or someone else is not going to come after us saying, hey, guess what, the wall's crumbling, and the only reason that has caused some change is due to this construction. So we want to be supportive of you. We just want to make sure that not you, sir, the contractor that gets hired, he or she may not be as due diligent as sometimes we desire. And they may do things that makes things awkward for us. So just a little bit of assurances to ensure that the good work done by your contractor on an off day is not going to muck things up. Okay?
More words. Yeah, that's good.
It's like the integration process.
So would it be acceptable to say that we would do a number of photographs of the wall, or maybe even a video, and then as the land surveyor who's out there doing the work, they can take some shots on the wall and monitor and see if there's any movement?
So I am trying to put myself in your shoes, sir, not to let this project cost you arm and a leg and a few other body parts. Okay? So try to be very mindful. However, please be mindful of the situations we can inherit, and the taxpayers of the whole city has to come and manage the situation. So you know, sir, very well that a photograph is not going to differentiate what is there from today unless I've taken the photograph with a lead microscope. Okay? So normally what we look for is a geotechnical engineer, appropriately qualified, not the guy who has 2 PhDs, someone who is capable of understanding the situation, to give us some assurance from a structural perspective that adequate safeguards are instituted through your construction so that the remaining 2 segments of walls have been properly safeguarded. Okay? So that is what's needed, and we are being extremely mindful of the incremental costs that you will have to undertake. Unfortunately, the real estate comes with a wall that is on our property that needs to be cut. And the moment you cut it, since I haven't figured out how to cut it with perfect precision so as not to let the next little thing fall, and it happens all the time. So help us to help you to manage the situation.
Okay. Public hearing, you just come up with a plan to review and share.
We'll be able to
That
do
will be
that.
just fine.
Okay.
With the ISD is concerned because, no, Amy, when the wall is on our property, city property right of way, ISD doesn't come into it, right? No, ISD comes in only when the wall is on
So
private.
the walls on our public property are often retaining things that are on private property, so it basically touches us both.
Okay,
Like
so the plan needs to be, because take it to its worst, and I say this quickly, if the surrounding walls should collapse and if the embankment should come down, which settles the houses, I have bought a shitload of problems. Okay?
I think it's part of this. Yeah, I think it's part of this plan.
I said it carefully.
I think we both have an interest in understanding what happens to the wall in front of 62, as well as what happens to the wall in front of 60, because essentially it seems like we're now creating a corner condition where you have the edge of the wall that is really supporting the retaining wall in front of 60. So we just need to exactly right. Right. So just for whatever you come up with, it would be
A
great.
structural engineer who understands the wall independently from your wonderful property.
Okay.
Okay?
We can address that.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So when would you plan on doing this? When would this go forward?
The case here or the work itself?
No, the work itself. Sorry. No, the work. Assuming it gets approved, when would you go forward?
Right away.
Right away.
Right away.
Oh, so you're just
Right. I just want to make sure that we then log this into Cobucks if it's not already. So.
Yeah, so we're about to pay within the next month or so, I just talked to Katie about this, so we're actively trying to figure this out.
Okay.
And or that you're not gonna have, it's just a resurfacing, I don't think there's any sidewalk work associated with it. So if the only work that you're doing is the cutting of the driveway, then you still need to work with Public Works, but it might.
all the utility connections. If you need to upgrade your gas or whatever, please get that stuff done.
Yeah.
But that gets.
Could I have permission to do that? Because
Okay.
Well, so
Oh,
it's,
right, just, no,
they need like a foundation permit is essentially what it's looking at.
maybe,
They need a cut and cap
Yeah.
for the,
Yeah.
is there an
Essentially,
existing?
we need
There's
the-
no existing.
or
You
new
have a-
services.
Do you have a contractor on board?
I do, yeah.
Who's that?
P&T contractors?
Okay, they need to submit a construction manner plan to my office, basically how they're gonna build the building. They gotta utilize sidewalk area, portions of the roadway, step us through the construction, just so we have an understanding of what's gonna transpire on the public right away.
We can do that.
He's very familiar with that, so.
Yeah, we can help you.
I think as long as we just sync up, I understand this be that you want to go at where we are in our resurfacing. I just want to make sure that we're creating a good final condition in front of this property rather than digging up after, because we're not syncing. 2 weeks enough time both to figure out what our construction plan would be, take a stab at it, and to figure out how we do a wall evaluation. Any other questions or comments?
Joe, do you want to meet me out there tomorrow?
Sure, I can do that.
I'll call you this afternoon, I'll make up a time.
Great. Amy or Todd? Members of the public? All right. See you guys on June 20th.
All right, thank
Until
you.
then, thank you. Next item is 51 Blossom Street in Boston proper, a granted location on a petition by Level 3 Communications.
Awesome. Didn't they just
No, it's
go
over there.
down Cambridge and build it up? They want to go down Blossom now?
Hello, is it still morning? Good morning.
Your next agenda item.
Yes, Shelley Cullen, representing Level 3. And this is for a petition for a grant of location. We did go through the lead company process, send out notification to any potential participants, and there was no interest in joining this dig. So it's just Level 3, 1 4-inch conduit, and then the 4 inch and a quarter for city shadow.
Is this for a specific client?
Yes, it's going,
Because you're
going into the build.
You're going to cut up Cambridge Street, you're going to cut up Blossom Street, and these streets are in good condition. Okay? So I'm just concerned about how one service provider that needs to be serviced over here forces us to cut up our streets.
I'm honestly not sure who the clients are, but the building is the Children's Shriner Hospital.
Okay, you gave me one of the 2 clients.
Sorry, and I just actually, you're on record, by the way.
Fastest way to neutralize this. Okay, enough said because we want to get done before noon.
I'm sure you're all hungry.
Right there for the record.
Same thing we talked about before, if you could just take a look at the handhold that we've got in Blossom Street and see whether there's any other place we might want to put it.
I'm sorry, for what?
Sorry, there's one handhold in Cambridge Street, and there's one we're putting into the middle of
Right,
Blossom
well,
Street.
the one at Blossom Street is actually on private property. We're breaking into an existing manhole there. Right, this one right here is on private property.
The other one.
And then the other one?
Further down.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Exactly,
it's
that
this one here.
Yeah, you can just take a look at that, exactly. The other one's in Cambridge Street.
And then this one here is actually breaking into existing level 3 conduit going down Cambridge Street.
So, something that was not very professional of me. I respect the hospital tremendously.
Yes.
Okay, but putting that thing to a side, whatever the services they need, is level 3 the only entity that is capable of providing that service, or are there other entities, whether it is Verizon, Comcast, or 23 other telecommunication companies that can provide this service without you having to cut our streets?
I'm sure there are other providers in that building because there's that existing manhole.
I kind of know that because
So,
we
yes.
built up that whole area. So
But there's no other existing conduit for lease by level 3 to go up that street. The first thing they always do is check with Verizon
They
to see
would
if there's...
check to rent prior.
everyone else around this, or provide whatever the services that are being requested by others and not going to level 3 because they're going to do it for the least amount of resources in terms of cost to the hospital versus collateral damage to the city.
Well, and typically, the least amount of cost to the end customer is the shortest thing, so it's finding the person who can get you furthest.
There's no city shadow.
There's no city shadow, no.
Yeah.
The closest that the city shadow comes is on Cambridge Street.
We do have a capital project for Blossom Street. We're down the,
No.
exactly, I was just thinking about, anyway, utility door or whatever, right? Okay.
Let me say that bicycle track on Cambridge.
Right. Shelley, anything else you want to cover on this? Shelley, anything else you want to cover on this?
No.
All right, other questions or comments? Emir, Todd, members of the public? Okay, see you in 2 weeks.
Excellent, thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next item of new business is Boylston Street, Massachusetts Avenue, Boston proper, Roxbury, Grand location on a petition by Exeter.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. For the record, Ricardo Souza from Prince Lobel, here on behalf of the petitioner, Extenet Systems. And to my left is John Morrison, engineer of record from UCS. And Commissioners, this is a continuing effort by Extenet to provide additional wireless DAS nodes throughout the city. And this one in particular is on Boylston Street near Mass Ave. It's been approved by Boston Street Lighting and also by Boston Water and Sewer. And it involves a DAS node, BBX70, which is a swap out of a dual globe for a new dual globe with our cabinet at the base. However, we do have the flexibility in this case, because we're not in a landmarks district, to do a pole-mounted cabinet, if that's the preference of the commission. And this dig will also accommodate both power and fiber, and that's really the reason for a traditional trench rather than the micro-trenching.
I mean, none of the work that's happening on that sidewalk
Right
is...
in front of Parcel.
Exactly. So is there any chance we would think about linking these two?
Well, it's that they've been told essentially that it's a tenuous site.
Okay.
And so I think that the notion of it being a side-mounted cabinet would make it a little bit more
Right.
nimble.
Fair enough.
And that hopefully we can coordinate it with Parcel 12, but they're aware that this is kind of an at your risk of construction.
Yeah,
And you're
Todd and Amy.
mindful- And I assume the construction cycles don't quite match up, though, to... No. Okay.
That's just part of the construction management plan. That sidewalk's gone
It's gone.
during the duration of the construction. Yeah.
Yeah, so I totally understand, Mr. Hesford. You know, we've come across this a couple of times, you know, on New Chardon, for example. We're dealing with a situation right now where we have to move it. our existing node that was approved by the commission. We built it, and then we're working with that particular landlord to move it because of that, the Bullfinch Crossing project, which is fairly expansive. And so we understand these things come about. We understand it's at our cost pursuant to the franchise agreement. We understand that we have to move it at our cost, and we have to accommodate that property owner and that development.
But I don't want to put something in the construction work zone. That your equipment potentially will
Yeah.
get damaged because that's the trucking lane.
So you feel it's in construction currently, or it's
It's not in
going to be
construction
very soon?
I think we need to be proactively coordinating that when they're building and they come to the finishes and they're doing the sidewalks and street lighting, that's the time that you get in there and coordinate with them and put that in.
Okay. However, what's the timeline relative to that, that development? You know, often we're talking years. I apologize.
One of the things we can work on between now and the public hearing is, does it make sense figure out the timeline, does it make sense to even go forward with this? And if this isn't the right location, there are streetlights on the opposite side of Boylston Street, which will not be impacted by the construction, which might be
A
ultimately
better shot.
Sure, I understand,
Even if
Para.
we put this in the final condition, this will be part of an active construction site for a very long time, probably with no lights in it or not.
Right, so there won't be power, there won't be access, it won't actually.
Mr. Sousa?
Yes.
When you are cutting across Mass Ave, the transportation department did some wonderful work in improving the bicycle accommodations and all those lane markings.
That's right.
Right, so who fixes those? Because I am waiting for the person who is ever going to fix things back, because they are not. And I'm at my wit's end to stop all work until someone faces up to fixing our pavement markings. So when you cut through, your contractor will come, compact the thing, put a strip of pavement over that looks like hell, but let's put that thing to a side. Mass Ave is one of the most heavily trafficked cyclist corridors.
Sure.
So how would you answer that question?
Well, I think that Extenet Systems, Arthur Pino in particular, the construction manager, works very good, very well with the city to make sure that we clean up our jobs.
Everything gets put back.
Right, exactly.
Including, so I'm concerned about any settlement of your trenches within these bicycle corridors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's just not vehicles. We are trying to introduce where even the minutiae settlements now impact the different modes of transportation.
Sure.
My luxury car can take the little bump, but when
Right.
it's a cycle, it's different.
It's a different story. As a cyclist, I fully understand that.
So help us to manage that situation so that your action doesn't create a awkwardness for us.
Sure. I will come back with a response at the next hearing so that I have a little bit more detail on that issue.
Also, we've been
Absolutely.
trying to get people to stay out of, there's the painted bike symbol, or there's green
Right.
paint.
Yeah.
You want to cut across white lines and asphalt, not pictures and colors.
Understood.
Some of these lane
Which this
marking-
currently does.
Understood.
Some of these lane marking disruptions are waiting on my 7th year to find out when they are going to go back. Not yours, sir.
Okay.
Throughout the city. So somehow we are failing.
Okay,
Okay.
understood. I will pass that along, and I also look across the street to see if radio frequency, if that's acceptable, because that sounds like a good alternative as well for everybody.
It will, going across the street will actually it'll come more in conflict with exactly the concern that Para referenced, because.
Oh, it will, okay.
Which is just, so it's figuring out how do we actually think about what that trench looks like so that you are going around what is both a bike box and on that side of Boylston Street. Exactly. So just be
Okay.
mindful that I think for everybody's involvement, it might be preferable on the other side of Boylston Street. We would want to design in a way which actually does not interfere with the bike infrastructure.
Okay.
Is that?
Thank
Anything
you.
else? Any more time? Members of the public? All right, see you guys in 2 weeks.
Very good.
Until the 20th.
Thank you.
All right, our next item is Fulton Street, Boston proper, grant of location, also on a petition by Extenet.
He has them? Okay. Mr. Chairman, once again, Ricardo Souza from Prince LaBelle here on behalf of Extenet Systems. John Morrison to my left, engineer of record. And this is a node that's in the north end, the edge of the north end, BNE 28, that will be on Cross Street. We can't touch Cross Street, so we'll be coming on our dig on Fulton from Richmond. from that breakout. And this also involves a replacement of a dual globe for a dual globe DAS node. And we would, because it's not in a historic district, also be able to use a pole-mounted cabinet as well. And so we can make sure we change that design.
Cross Street, what is the restriction on Cross Street because it's part of the central artery?
I believe it's a guaranteed street.
Yes.
Oh, that's
Yes.
Cross Street is definitely not a guaranteed street.
It's not? Okay. So John, I'd like you to
We
speak to that.
just had, sidewalk work out there, some other utility work right in this area right now. We just had water and sewer
Yes.
installation that was up there.
What is your long-term plan for North End? Because as much as you show us little bits and pieces, North End has, they've gone through much drama.
Right, right.
Everyone, we are waiting for things to settle down. So now you are coming here. We have just got through building North Square close by. Are you planning on hopscotching all over the North End because it is prime real estate in terms of your needs? Just need to understand how you are going to systematically cut things.
Sure.
Okay, because our investments are falling apart.
Right. So Para, about 1 to 2 years ago, we did a significant amount of nodes within the interior of the North End. So our work has really now been around the edges, including Commercial Street, and then this is also on the edge as well. So there's a fair amount of capacity.
Around the edges of North End.
Yeah, so it's hard to predict, what the carriers will need in the future, but right now I don't have any proposed nodes for the interior of the North End.
That reinforces the Cross Street question. Just if you're really looking at Cross and Commercial, et cetera, just if you can connect in it between now and the public hearing about can you use Cross Street rather than going down Fulton.
The issue with using Cross Street is the closest feed manhole, the closest breakout manhole from Cross Street was all the way down. It was a much longer dig. It was about 600 feet down Cross Street.
On Cross Street.
Because our initial node location was actually on Cross at, they call it Chair Alley, or there was an alley there. Yep. And that location was actually denied by Boston Water and Sewer because the node location sat on top of 3 huge water mains. There were 3 very large water mains that the node was sitting on top of. So we ended up having to go down to Fulton Street, and the closest feed manhole for Fulton Street happened to be at Richmond, because I believe when they come in to do the central artery there, they pushed a lot of the utilities up out of there. So there is literally no telecommunications manholes on Cross Street.
I think this.
I find that hard to believe because that.
So did we.
So as part of the central artery project, that's the utility corridor right there.
I know, and
Look at
there's
the number of manholes that are in that roadway.
I know, and there is no Verizon manholes on that entire.
How about?
N-Star, the same thing with the EverSource manhole. If you notice that our current feed manhole is, I believe it's manhole 308 up at Richmond and Fulton. We are working right now with EverSource to try to bring that power feed manhole down closer
to Cross Street.
Basically to Cross Street. And then if we're able to do that, what we will be able to do, and we're hopefully before the public hearing, we're going to find this out, we'll be able to micro trench that entire length instead of traditional trench. Because the last thing...
Yes.
Right. The last thing that Extenet wants to do is traditional trench 400 feet of conduit on Fulton Street. I mean, they want micro trench as much as possible and then a small trench for power. So if that is the case, then that trench line, instead of being the traditional 36, 24-inch deep trench, it's going to just be the 9-inch deep micro trench, and it's much easier. So we're working right now with EverSource to hopefully get those plans modified.
One thing I know, again, defer to others on whether this is the right thing, but if now the plan is sort of ringing the North End, and that includes sort of a number of antennas sort of essentially at Cross Street, whether it actually makes sense for us, instead of doing one tiny thing from Richmond on down, whether we look more comprehensively at connections along Cross Street so that we are not doing Fulton today, Commercial tomorrow, North the third day, Hanover the next, that we should just, perhaps what makes most sense is for us to think about Cross Street as the utility corridor for those gateway entrances.
Yeah, for this polygon, this is our last North End node for this polygon. Now,
For
Polygon
Verizon.
is basically...
I'm supposed to have photographic memory and maybe to know which polygon.
Right, so
God,
for this Polygon, and basically Polygon meaning per carrier. So this is for a carrier, and we have no control over, believe me, I've, you know, when they come to me with these polygons, and I look at them and I go, oh my God, we just built this 6 months ago. Like, I wish there was a way to sort of develop. I mean, you look at the Do It portal map and all the dots and the stars.
But
I do not.
What we don't want to do, Mr. Chairman, is start digging cross street when in fact there's no demand from a carrier to actually build the nodes.
I think this is just
So,
a
but
conversation.
I wish we could, though.
If there's no
Yeah.
way to get here through here with fiber optics, whether it be DAS antenna or something, that the notion that getting some capacity through here might make sense, rather than
As an
everybody
investment for
trying to do
future.
end around
Right.
the north end.
So you say, oh my God, what do you think we're saying?
Oh, I know.
I'm saying Whiskey Tango Foxtrot.
But I'm sitting on this side of the table. We're the ones that are here asking.
On that happy note.
It's not as PG as ours.
If you are going to have updated plans, we just ask that you send them to the office first so we can review them before public hearing.
Of course.
Yes, yeah, and I
Yes.
sent you the changes.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, thank you.
Okay,
Yeah, and I noticed that there was an updated detail that included the width with
The depth of the trench, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
The edge stone with the 9 inches for the catch basin, we approved that,
Yes,
so,
yeah.
Great.
for the rebuild,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Other questions or comments? I'm here, Todd. Comments, public. All right. A couple things we could dive into up to now, June 20th, that'd be great.
2 weeks, yeah. Hopefully we have some good news for everybody. Thank you, commissioners. Have a good day.
You too. Our final item of new business is 299 Milk Street, Boston proper, a granted location on a petition by Verizon New England Inc.
Amy, do we have ownership of this sidewalk right now? Because this is between the two babies and...
Yes, so this falls amongst the things that if anything that's permanently going in this location is kind of doing a cross-permitting situation, the installation will be with the state, but ultimately the ownership will come to us.
And you all are going to do class A plus work in terms of... sorry.
Well, this is a cap, so.
This is located closer to the aquarium.
Right, this is in front of the aquarium garage.
So is this part of Central Artery Corridor?
Yes.
Who's gonna permit?
The central artery.
That's not-
Sorry, the state is, the state is gonna permit, but it will become ours, so they permit the work, but we approve the installation, and then it goes, the state wants to see that we've approved it before they'll allow permitting of something that's going to be there permanently that will not be theirs. So they need us to say okay before they will allow them to permit the construction.
What the heck is a fiber hut? Yeah.
That's what we're here to find out.
Oh, sorry, I missed all of that. Yeah, I thought they were just doing this really, really short dig, and I was so happy.
Good
I
morning.
suppose I'm going to be happy.
My name is Sandra McQueen. I'm with Verizon, and this is Nicholas Wazen, who's with UC Synergetic. And we're here for the petition for a grant of location to place a fiber optic distribution hub in front of 299 Milk Street in order to serve the businesses and kiosks and everyone in that area in the wharf.
And what is a fiber hub?
So this is where we're serving from. So this is where all of our fibers come in from our central office, and then they're distributed from this hub to all the.
So literally, like, what does it look like? Is it like a thing which is above?
So
I actually have a
excuse me,
photo
sorry.
of that.
Let me show you what you have presented us.
Yes.
This is what you have presented, okay? And the only information I had to understand what your hub is the notion that it is a PLC head mount fiber hub that is 33, so it's about 32 inches by 1.5 feet by 30. That's not enough.
Okay.
Okay, because this is not in front of my house. This is one of the most prominent locations. So you all need to tell us a little bit more. I want to know its vintage, its shoe size, everything in between. I'm kind of being serious here, okay? Because we haven't seen this stuff, and you need to first of all help us to understand what this contraption looks like before we even go to decide X marks the spot?
Of course. So I have some photos if you want to see them. So this is the first photo is, thank you, the street lighting cabinet that exists there already, and that's the footprint that's shown on our plans. And then the second two photos are a couple of views of the beige, yes, the beige cabinet. So that is the fiber distribution hub, and that's one that we have placed in Dorchester. So that's...
My house? No, suburbs versus downtown proper, where even the little, you know, even if I put my shoe down, people are going to be concerned about it.
But are these things basically replacing these?
No.
No, that's the mailboxes.
That's,
No, that's, none of the exchange?
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, so this is a...
Yeah, they have these.
Yes, all over the place,
Yeah.
right.
Is that-
Is this gonna be as ubiquitous as these?
Yeah, so it'll be smaller, a smaller footprint.
But the other one doesn't go away.
No, so we're...
Replacing the brown things with the gray.
Correct, correct. But we don't have the brown one in the photo is a sack box. And that is, we don't have one of those currently in front of Milk Street. We don't have anything. So this is completely new, not replacing anything.
And what's the reason why this is sort of built above ground rather than below ground or installed within the building?
and to add to what the chief said, what's your frequency of needing it? Not just your technology, but every other 13.9 telecommunication companies that are playing in the city. The last thing we would want is to see the intrusion of infusion and all those SION words of another wonderful thing that may be miscolor-coded that is going to be within the pedestrian sidewalk space. So just want to understand the bigger picture.
Yes, so as much as possible, we try to place our fiber distribution hubs within buildings if we're serving just that building. If they will allow us to serve other buildings from that same hub within their building, we try to use that solution as well. But for this one in particular, since we're serving several businesses in the area, that's why we need to place it in the public way. As far as placing it above ground, we have looked at the possibility of placing a handhole. But as far as accessing it for serving customers, if there's ever an issue or anything, the more you access the handhole, the more likelihood there is that if there's an FDH within that handhole, that it could be exposed to the elements if it's not sealed properly, if water gets in, that can affect service. And also if there's snow on the ground, it's just easier to locate something that's above ground.
So I'm just concerned about me not being properly educated about the frequency of you needing this stuff to support your area-wide system in all of Boston. And then once I understand that, who else provides similar services such as you? Because I'm going to assume that this is not a unique experience for you in terms of what the customer is looking through from you. Just want to understand how this is going to percolate through citywide, whether we latched on to something new that is at least 33 inches, and I'm going to assume that's, first of all, the pad, flash sidewalk, you have a little pad thing happening, and this contraption coming up a good 3 feet.
Yes.
Okay? So, I mean, right, we're on the same page, right? I mean, that's another little washing machine contraption that is happening at eye level, and before everyone says, hi, we need this because this is the next great thing in the city space.
I think two things which would be helpful. One is, have you reached out to this business? Who's the business?
Aquarium Garage.
Ah. I mean, so it's which is generally a publicly accessible structure.
Right, there's also the entire plaza in front of the aquarium, which is private property.
Right.
Which is housing all the services that they will ultimately connect to. So all those kiosks and stuff like that, can this cabinet be out of the public right of way and onto the plaza that is the aquarium if it cannot go into the
Whom this is actually serving.
Yeah.
Because the precedent which we are trying to avoid is someone saying, hi, you allow these nice people to put something within the public space.
Yes.
Okay, which is for the 700,000 people of the greater Boston area, Boston. Okay, that's everyone's space versus private space. I think you have great rights to do your thing in your own space.
So I think that if you can have that conversation with the aquarium, obviously that'd be
preferable not to have one more thing in the public right-of-way. The second thing, whether it's on the aquarium land or on this corner, there is an opportunity to think about what has been installed at Milk and Washington Street, adjacent to the Old South Meeting House, and whether this gets, we can sort of identify what this is for you, but essentially it is putting a street lighting cabinet inside of a bench, which at least then is additive to the public realm, rather than something which is one more additional space. And given the actual location we're talking about, place where people to sit actually is a pretty good fit. It seems like there actually could be regardless of where it ends up, actually a good fit there, rather than something which is not necessarily additive to the public right of way.
I also think it's kind of clear what's necessitating this in this particular location, but not where you would want more of these. Are you planning on asking for more, and what will trigger you asking for more? Because I think that next to those brown things, we don't just want to start adding.
Exactly.
Right.
So whatever that rollout plan is.
So, AD, should they come back to us again under new business once we have better educated,
Yeah, because I think if we're going to explore different locations, then this isn't our desired spot.
Yeah, rather than scheduling, other than
Well,
the
then
change.
it would just become a granted location, because if it was on private property, we're only running the conduit to it. We are not actually permitting a physical structure within our.
So based on all of what you have heard, what is your guidance?
I
to
guess I
us?
think that it should come back as new business, because it's likely to come back as a separate action than it, and so we can't advertise a specific repair and then bring it back as a granted location.
Sounds good.
So no action to take, not that we would take an action anyway because it's the new business, but maybe no action that we would need to take.
Right.
Okay. So with, those are bits of sort of broader context, seeing if we can find a different location or a different sort of structural design. We'll coordinate when the next time is, whether it's on June 20th or whatever time.
Yeah, June 20th, you come back for new business, which would make it the 6th, 11th of July would be your.
Ideal, find private property.
Yep.
Ideal is to find
And then
private.
you're only asking us for 20 days.
Like protecting it.
You guys have any questions about that?
You can get in touch with us.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? John? John? All right. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you.
Thank you.